everybody, welcome back to my channel and thank you for joining me for another missing case. Today's video is another one that was suggested to me, and it is a case out of Alabama that has gone unsolved for the past 23 years. Now, there's a lot more to this case, I'm sure, that has never been released to the public, but I will give you all the information I was able to find. I do need to give a big thank you to newspapers.com. That site is extremely helpful when I'm researching, especially the older cases, and I got a ton of information for this video from their website. I do pay for a subscription, but it's definitely worth it. So if you are also a content creator or just like looking up old articles, check out newspapers.com. Not sponsored or anything, I just like it. Traci Lee Pittman was born on March the 5th of 1968 to parents Steve and Linda Pittman. She was raised in Montgomery, Alabama alongside her younger brother, and she graduated from Landmark Christian High School in 1986. Traci, who is described as being a very sweet and caring person, later went on to marry Greg Kegley in 1993, and 2 years later, in 1995, the two had a little girl. The marriage did not last, and the two separated, then divorced in early 1998. However, from what I understand, there wasn't any animosity between them or fighting over custody or anything of that sort. Their relationship was pretty amicable, I think. Traci left Montgomery and moved to Eclectic to stay with her parents while she was getting things in order to kind of start over, essentially. She had recently interviewed at a dentist office and landed a job as a dental assistant. On Sunday, April the 26th, just one day before she was supposed to start that new job at the dental office, Traci and her 2.5-year-old daughter left Traci's parents' home to run some errands. Traci was wearing pink shorts, a white shirt with a floral design, white sneakers, and she was driving her white 1993 Geostorm. And though I'm not sure exactly what time she left her parents' home or where all she planned on going to run her errands, we do know that she was last seen around 6:30 p.m. at a gas station located at the intersection of Highway 231 and Redland Road in Wetumpka. Multiple people there at the gas station witnessed Traci having a very loud, very public argument with two or more unidentified people. Afterward, Traci got back into her Geostorm and left. But Traci and her daughter never arrived back to her parents' home that day. Traci's parents became worried because her errand trip shouldn't have taken all day and all evening, and it wasn't like Traci to not come home, especially since she had her baby girl with her. They did call around, but no one had seen Traci. They drove around along with Traci's best friend looking for Traci and her vehicle throughout the night because they thought maybe she had wrecked or her car had broken down. They were checking along the roadsides and even shining a light down in ditches, but they didn't find any sign of her, so they did report her missing. Earlier the following morning, on Monday, April 27th, a man that lived on Old Georgia Road, which is also known as Alabama 170, was driving along when he saw a white Geostorm sitting on the side of the road. That's a very secluded area surrounded by woods, miles away from the nearest town, and as he got closer, he could see a child's head sticking up in the back seat of the car. He got out of his vehicle to investigate further, and sure enough, Traci's little girl was in the vehicle, strapped in her car seat and all alone. She was alive and well, thank goodness, but her mother or any other adult was nowhere in sight. The man immediately alerted the authorities, and the little girl was placed in the care of her father. I have to say, look how darkly tinted those windows are of that Geostorm. Thank goodness he was paying attention and was able to see that poor baby, or who knows how much longer she would have had to sit there. She was probably so scared, she was likely in there all night in the dark. According to the Farmer's Almanac, the low would have been around 61 degrees in that area, and the high would have been around 79 degrees Fahrenheit. So thank goodness he found her, because cars can heat up quick. When it's 79, 80 degrees outside, it can get to 99 degrees inside a car after 10 minutes and 114 degrees after 30 minutes. Yes, the windows were rolled down, but still, if the sun was hitting directly on the car, it would get pretty hot. I know window tinting does help to keep the temperature lower though. Maybe she wouldn't have been overcome by the heat, but she probably would have been extremely uncomfortable. Anyway, thank goodness he got there when he did. When police examined Traci's vehicle, they found that the doors were unlocked, the windows were cracked, not cracked as in broken, I mean rolled down a bit to let air in. The keys were in the ignition and the radio was playing. The engine wasn't on, but the ignition key was turned to accessory mode so that the radio would play. The car didn't appear to be broken down or wrecked. It was as if someone had purposefully parked it there. The car had gas in it, the tank was completely full, and the car started right up with no problems. Reports do state that Traci's personal items, her purse and her identification, were found at the scene. Now, it doesn't say where, but I'm going to assume that they were inside her vehicle because it's also reported that there were no signs of a struggle or, I guess, anything weird where the car was, so I think if the purse was flung out on the road or if it was on the ground outside the car, law enforcement would have taken that as a sign that maybe there had been a robbery or some type of struggle. Police did run the plates on the vehicle, discovered it belonged to Traci, and notified her parents, who told police that she hadn't come home and that they had been looking for her and a missing report had been filed. Traci's parents immediately knew there was no way Traci would have intentionally abandoned her little 2.5-year-old, and something was very wrong. They also wondered why Traci would have been driving on Alabama 170 or Old Georgia Road to begin with. That highway did lead to her parents' home in Lake Martin in Eclectic, but up a little farther, the road was closed due to construction. And Traci knew that. She would have known that she needed to take a different way home. Her case was treated as an abduction, and police began putting out Traci's information to the public to see if they could get any leads. Tips did come in, and the area around the car was searched, as well as nearby rock quarries, but those searches, along with the use of divers and tracking dogs, found nothing. Nearly 250 people assisted in the search, including many volunteers from the community that willingly came and walked through the woods and the ditches along Old Georgia Road. A lot of tips were called in, but none of them panned out or led to anything. A man called Traci's mom not long after she went missing and told her that he had seen a car like Traci's parked near a rock quarry about 2 miles from where the car had been found. Police did drag one of the 3 quarries in that area, but the other 2 were too deep to be searched. Traci's mother believes Traci could have been overpowered by a stranger and abducted at a car wash located in Wetumpka near the gas station she had last been seen at. Apparently, Traci often stopped there to wash her car before heading home, and after she disappeared, Traci's little girls seemed scared when they were near that car wash, like maybe something bad had happened there. In desperation, Traci's parents did contact a few psychics, and her mom spent a lot of her free time driving along back roads in Elmore County, sometimes even following dark-colored trucks to see if the person driving it fit the physical description of a man one of the psychics had described to her. Every year from 1998 to 2002, around the anniversary of Traci's disappearance, her parents increased the reward money, and it got all the way up to $100,000, which is a very high reward. They had a billboard put up by the gas station she was last seen at, and the billboard showed the reward amount. They were hoping the amount would entice anyone to come forward with information, but no one did. In 2006, law enforcement received a tip that they believed to be credible enough to facilitate another search. Police were very careful and took their time making sure Everything was in order before they searched because they didn't want to tip off someone involved that may go and remove evidence. They obtained a search warrant but stressed that the owner of the property was not a suspect. They began the search in 2018 in the Chalk Hill Road area of the Friendship community, which was around 20 miles away from where Traci's car had been found. They scoured over 300 acres of this property. They had drones, 17 teams of cadaver dogs, 200 law enforcement officers, GPS trackers, helicopters, you name it, they had it. During the search, it was announced that potential evidence was found by divers in a pond inside the 300-acre property. Police didn't release what the evidence was, but it's believed that it was bones that had to be sent off to see if they were human. Apparently, this property was littered with animal bones and deer carcasses because it was once a deer farm. So I'm sure that made the search way more difficult. Whatever else they found during the search, if anything, has never been released. It seems not much came of this search at all. Now, although there's no evidence to prove it, it is believed Traci fell victim to foul play, though her remains have never been found and no one has ever been charged. There are suspects and persons of interest in her case, although their names have never been released. What happened to Traci? Did she park her car there herself? Did someone get in her car at the gas station or the car wash and force her to drive somewhere without anyone around noticing? Maybe a stranger, or maybe even someone she knew? Whoever parked the car obviously didn't intend to harm Traci's daughter and took special measures to make sure she was more comfortable, rolling down the windows, keeping the radio on. Perhaps it was someone Traci didn't know, and when they abducted her, they didn't realize her daughter was in the car. Or just maybe Traci was the one who rolled down the windows and left the radio on. Did she pull over and get out of the car on her own, and then someone pulled up and she knew she was in danger and her daughter would be left there? Was any foreign DNA found on the inside or outside of the car, maybe on the car keys, the door handle, radio buttons, or the window controls? The area where her car was parked, from the picture, it looks like there was dirt on the road, or the side she pulled over was like, all dirt. Were there tire marks from another vehicle there, or any shoe prints? Who did she get into the argument with at the service station? Did she know them? Have they ever come forward or been identified and cleared of involvement? If so, that information hasn't been released. There are so many unanswered questions. I was unable to find any information on the people Traci argued with. I'm unsure if they were male or female, what kind of car they were driving, or what they were arguing about. Did those people follow her when she left the gas station? Unfortunately, there were no cameras at the gas station during that time. So much time has gone by with no one talking about what they know, no clues found. If more than one person was involved in this, which I kind of feel there had to be, how have they kept it quiet for so long? That's a huge secret to keep for over 2 decades now. Okay, I have another question about the car. I was under the impression that if you left your radio on for an extended period of time without the car running, that it would drain your battery and, kill it. You wouldn't be able to start your car. You'd have to jump it because your car battery recharges as the engine runs. I know that much. If your engine isn't running, the battery will still work for, your radio or your power windows, your heating or cooling fan, but it's pulling power and not getting recharged. Now, if their little girl was left in there for, let's say, 8 to 12 hours with the radio on, how did the car start back up right away? I looked into how long you can use accessory mode, and according to piketransit.com, they say that it depends on your battery. If it's a good battery, you can use accessory mode for hours, but 8 to 12? Maybe the newer cars now could last longer, but a 1993 model? I don't know. Maybe the car hadn't been sitting there for as long as they thought before it was discovered. Anyway, that's just something that I was kind of pondering. I really don't know a whole lot about cars, honestly. So if you know anything about all that, or if a car could go that long with the radio running and still have no problem with the engine firing up, let me know down in the comments. I almost want to test it out on my car, but it's a 2016 and I have to work tomorrow, and my husband may not be too happy with me if I do that on purpose, and he has to come jump my battery. So let me know in the comments if that's possible for a car to run the radio for 8 to 12 hours and still start right up. Traci's daughter was only 2.5 when this happened, so she likely doesn't even remember it, and she would have been too young to really give anyone information at the time, I think. Traci's divorce was finalized only 16 days before she disappeared, so I'm sure some suspicion fell on her ex-husband and father of her child. But would a father really leave his child strapped into a car alone on a deserted stretch of highway? I don't think so. I'm also positive police looked into him thoroughly, even though I couldn't find information saying they did. My guess would be he was the first person they checked out. He does not have a criminal past. He has brought up their daughter, and from what I can tell anyway, he seems to have done a fine job of it. The daughter still sees her mom's parents, and they've been involved in her life. Also, remember how I mentioned that their little girl seems scared around the area of the car wash? If her daddy had been there and was involved, she may not have realized anything was wrong at the time. So I find it more likely that it was someone the little girl wasn't familiar with. Just my opinion, I don't know, but personally, I don't feel that he was involved. For those wondering about Traci's little girl, she is now in her 20s. She looks a lot like Traci, and she seems to be doing very well. I'm not going to say her name in the video, but she seems to have had a good life so far, which is wonderful. Under Alabama law, family must wait 5 years before a person can be declared legally dead if a body has not been recovered and no death certificate has been issued. In this case, it's been 23 years and no one has ever done that. Traci has never been declared legally dead. In 1998, Traci was 5 foot 10 inches tall and 140 pounds. She has brown hair, green hazel eyes, and her hair was frosted at the time of her disappearance. She has a C-section scar on her abdomen and her ears are pierced. Anyone with information on her disappearance can call the Elmore County Sheriff's Department at 334-567-5441 or the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency at 334-353-2250. Traci's family has been waiting for answers for 23 years, and I pray someday they get them. I don't believe for a second Traci intentionally left. She loved her little girl, and from what I've heard, she was a great mom, and there's no way she would leave that baby alone in an unlocked car on the side of the road at night. Or anytime, daytime, nighttime, never. She wouldn't do it. Someone did this to her. Why they did it? We may never know, but I hope her family gets some type of closure eventually, and I hope whoever knows what happened, because someone does, I really wish they would come forward. Please share Traci's flyer. As always, it is linked below in the description box. Share this video if you think it will help. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss when I upload a new unsolved missing case each week. I would also highly suggest checking out my entire missing playlist, as each case I cover is super important and each one of these people matter. As always, I mean no harm in doing these videos. I'm simply trying to spread awareness. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here and listening to Traci's story. Someone out there knows what happened to Traci that night her car was left on the side of the road. Perhaps even someone watching this video. So, will you be the one who looks away or the one who does something about it? I'll see you all next week.